Hi, my name is Jags, and today I'm going to be doing a commentary over my Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild All Dungeons PB, which, as of the 11th September, which it is today, was 1 hour 58 minutes, just a shade under the 2-hour run. So timing of this run actually begins when you gain Controller Link, so we have this little cutscene section, which is a nice introduction to the game, which is a nice little way of trying to introduce people into the run, and it's very cinematic, as the Zelda team like to do. I've got my fancy avatar, courtesy of Fox Dalek. So yes, this run, about 2 hours. I'm going to segment it off in half, so this part is going to go up to probably about the entrance to the second dungeon. We're going to go over some of the tricks that we use at the start of the run, including IST, which is the most important trick of this run, I would imagine. Getting off the Great Plateau, going to Rito Village, doing the first dungeon, how we get about going across the map and all that fancy jazz. And then the second half of this I'm going to record is going to be going over the dungeons. So the first thing we need to do is run over, grab the Sheikah Slate. So the first thing you'll see me do here is activate the camera terminal. So the reason I do this is because it plays a cutscene, and I want to skip that cutscene happening as soon as possible because we're going to very instantly do our first glitch to get out of bounds in this room to skip watching the cutscene. So we have this nice little cutscene here. I can hear myself talking in the background. Not off-putting at all. So I'm literally spamming the camera button now. You wouldn't be able to tell, but so I'll do that. We'll get this cutscene out of the way, and then I'm going to instantly jump into this corner. Now I'm going to point the map in a really specific way here, and then I'm going to spam the camera button, and that'll push me out of bounds. And then I do something called whistle sprinting there. So if I hold the whistle button and then mash the sprint button, you gain a little bit of speed from the sprint, but more importantly, other than recovering stamina and not using stamina up, it also allows us to climb things because Link goes to a really weird angle, so we can get that cliff quite quickly. So we're out at the Great Plateau. This freezes time in the game to 5 a.m. and it freezes the weather, which is really important for two reasons. First of all, we don't get any rain, which is something we want to avoid because we don't really want RNG. And second of all, because it freezes the time, we don't have any like day-night cycles, which is really important, for example, for going to the desert, so we don't encounter any issues with the time. I need to jump over those guys and grab a weapon. And I also need to grab some materials, mainly mushrooms here. So there's two reasons for this. A, we need it for health on the Great Plateau, because health can be quite tight. But we do actually use it later on in the run for a glitch. So I need a specific amount of materials in my inventory. So here I'm going to do a shield surf to head down, get into the cutscene. So really importantly, this run is in a different language. I want to say it's Italian? Yeah, it's Italian for this run. Because although the text is instant and we skip the cutscenes, for the bits where we do actually have to watch cutscenes and where the characters talk, English is just much slower than Italian. Italian, German, and French all have, depending on the run, have different timings. So here I need to go into the Temple of Time. First of all, I'm going to use that and grab some arrows, and I'm going to grab a bow. So I need this bow for a very important glitch that's about to come up called BLSS, or Bow Smuggle Super Slide? BLSS. Bowlock Smuggle Slide, that's the one. So, a lot of things happen really quickly there. So, essentially, I can put myself... Didn't mean to do that. So I can put myself into a state where I'm holding the bow, but I don't really need to be. I don't really mean to be. The game gets confused and wonders why I'm holding a bow. And it means objects get stuck to my hand, and you get in this state by here, where, as I said, it happens quite quickly, where I gain a lot of speed very quickly, because essentially the bow is pushing me along. And now for the second glitch, very quickly, I need to get skew, and I need to stand in a really specific spot. So when I shield surf, it didn't work first time. when I shield surf, if you shield surf on a surface that isn't even, it gives Link a weird skew value because it thinks the value he has next time he shield surfs should be the angle that you've kind of locked from doing that shield surf. Because the skew happens so quickly, it can force Link to go out of bounds and then back in bounds like that again, which allows us to get into the bomb shrine before activating the tower. We will activate the tower before doing the other shrines, but you can do all four without even doing the tower at all. But for this run, we do want the tower because we use the shrines at some points in the run. So there, what I do is I remove the skew by unequipping the shield and ragdolling because I need the skew off for the next trick, which is a bomb impact launch, which is where I time putting 2 bombs in the air and using bullet time to be able to catapult myself forward. So already we're seeing quite a lot of the glitches happen very quickly. Well, I'd say this is more of a trick than a glitch, although it's definitely not in Tears of the Kingdom thanks to them removing the bomb rune. So this only works on cardinal points because the square bomb needs to hit us in a really specific way. Either flat or on a corner. On a corner is more ideal because we get more distance, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to sit myself up, I'm going to jump forward, put 1 bomb down, put the second bomb down in a really specific timing, and that allows us to launch forward like that. And I need to run and put it down here. So since I got a bit more time, BLSS, since it's a very important glitch for this run, so I need to put my character into such a way where, first of all, I need to unequip an item as I'm trying to put it away, which locks the bow in my hand. Then if I pick up a pot, I'm holding the bow and the pot at the same time, and you'll see here I'll be holding the bow and the bomb at the same time because the bomb is essential for BLSSing anywhere. Then if I step off a ledge, Link goes into a really weird holding animation, but the bomb starts pushing me along. So I'll turn around so the bomb is behind me, and then I'll wiggle, and that will add speed. And that can add a lot of speed to the point where the game has to stop and load. But very helpfully for this run, when we'll be using it is basically to cross anywhere around the map that requires any kind of speed. For smaller areas such as shrines, I'll be using the bomb impact launchers because they give me a lot of height, which you can't get off of BLSS. So we'll mix those two together to the old man. We'll be mixing those two together to basically cross across the map very rapidly and getting into places we shouldn't be able to quickly, and getting up buildings, getting up surfaces, all that fun stuff, without using Ascend, obviously, because we don't have it yet. So this cutscene plays out. We have to watch these cutscenes, unfortunately, and this one always triggers after the first shrine. But obviously, I haven't got the tower yet, so our next job is going to be to go get the tower, because we do need some of the shrines. So I'm going to climb up this wall by here, and then I'm going to take out a bomb and drop it, take out a second bomb, go back into the BLSS state by unequipping that shield. The square bomb is slightly slower for BLSS than the round bomb, so ideally we want to use the round bomb, but obviously you have the problem of the round bomb just rolls off surfaces, whereas the square bomb stays under you. So there are times where it's more beneficial to have the square bomb. And I also need to blow it up, because once I activate this tower, I'm going to be doing a glitch. So when this tower goes up, you would never notice it in normal play. What's supposed to happen is you're supposed to descend the tower, and then you get the cutscene where the old man tells you how to get to the first shrine. Now, A, I've already done the first shrine, so I don't need it, and the game actually goes into a very weird glitch state anyway when you do that. But B, it's slow. So what I need to do is I need to get away from the tower. Now, you'd think I'd be able to BLSS away from the tower, but you actually can't. There's an invisible wall. So what you need to do is you need to use a bomb impact launch, a BIL, to get enough speed to get past the wall, because it's not a particularly well-built wall, since I don't think they intended people to get around it anyway. And then I need to do something called a full damage cancel to drop in the water and then head across the second dungeon. And I believe... Second shrine. I believe it saves about 30 to 45 seconds doing it this way. It can save a bit more time if you have a better full damage cancel, but I use a safer method to drop into the water rather than dropping closer to the shrine, which is possible. So what you'll see me do here is, after I skip this cutscene, is I'm going to jump on a ledge, because I need to be facing a really specific angle for this. And I need to put on VR mode. Now, VR mode puts the game into a really laggy state. So I'm going to jump forward.
Whoa.
Nearly messed it up.
Yeah, too far over to the wall.
So yes, I need to face a very specific angle because I need to basically hit the corner of the wall and then bounce back to the direction I want to face. So I'll use my staff to line up.
Excuse me?
So I need to be a bit more over here, which is what happened there. Is because if you don't have enough height, then you just if you don't have enough height off the ground, then you don't go into bullet time. You just jump down, and I just wasn't far enough over because it counted the ground under me as too close. So there we go. I go into bullet time, and then I'm going to face the woods and keep pressing the pause menu. So Link's ragdoll animation actually stops if the game encounters enough lag, which is why we use a mixture of the VR animation to slow the game down, to literally slow the amount of frames down, face towards the trees so that the game loads in the trees, which slows us down, and constantly pressing the bow menu, because pressing the bow menu as well, as the game comes out of it, it'll lag because it's in VR and facing the trees, and that'll slow us down enough to come out of ragdoll state and into a normal state, which is when I can do the full damage cancel. You can do that closer to the shrine, but doing it over the water is significantly safer, because if you mess up the full damage cancel, you still don't lose that much health from the water. So we're going to go into the Magnesis Shrine next, which is most people's first shrine, but obviously we want the bombs as soon as possible, and the bomb skew isn't too painful. You can skew into every single shrine. Some are worse than other ones. This one isn't too bad to skew into if you skip the tower, and there are routes where we go get the Magnesis, then go back and get the tower. But for this route, because what we do after this, it actually makes more sense to get the tower then Magnesis, and save ourselves having to do a second skew setup, because it does take a bit of time. Over the course of the entire plateau, not doing the tower would save time, but I don't really need to save that time if I need to get the tower anyway. So first of all, I'm going to do this, and then run down. So we don't actually need to do much of the BILs, because without the paraglider, the fall damage cancel can be a little bit tricky. And if you mess it up, it loses a lot of time. So we'll actually use a fairly normal route to go through Magnesis quite quickly. So you'll see that route. And I got shot by the guy. You'll see that route quite often, even in the glitchless categories. It's a very similar route. Pretty safe. So, you know, there's a lot of quicker, more complex tactics for these. But we don't really need to worry about them quite yet. Because the safer strategies don't lose that much time, and if you're finishing runs, obviously you want to be playing it sensibly, and there's a lot more time saves than shaving 10 seconds off a shrine. So here, once I've come out of the dungeon, I'm going to use BLSS, or the bow lift smuggle slide, again to head off from this area over to a very specific location. So first of all, I'm going to climb this tree, and then this little ledge right here. So BLSS only works off like really specific heights. Luckily enough, towers have this height. So in longer categories, we use towers a lot for that. But for this, we got this nice little wall. And I'm going to play Wiggle Hero to get all the way over here. As you see me look down, it's just because it's a lot easier to aim where I'm going. And then I need to aim my wiggling to head up this little cliff area. And then I need to gain a bunch of speed to try and get up that little section. And then what I'm going to do, other than bounce off a rock, so it can be very difficult to aim, BLSS, really difficult to aim. Since it's not an intended behavior, I may be surprised to learn, is, first of all, I'm going to put away this bomb, and I'm going to grab some apples. I don't particularly need them for the health, necessarily, but I do need them for a glitch setup. So here, I'm going to climb this tree. And then I'm going to point my camera towards a really specific point on this rock. And then I'm going to do what's called a full height BLSS to just barely make it up this cliff. So I needed to time it really specifically. Luckily enough, it's quite easy to get that timing down once you have a good idea of how to do it. But you need to be really specific about that timing in order to achieve enough height. And if it goes wrong, you need to reload the entire thing. So here, again, this shrine is very normal, to be honest, compared to
All that history stuff would
any
probably
other
be
strategy.
better.
We're just gonna
I do
get
like
across
this.
there as quick as possible. It's about 2 minutes to get across here. It's not a particularly long split. In any percent, this used to be the first shrine. Obviously, we do bombs now in any percent, but this used to be the one back before we had BLSS that we used to get to first. Even the earliest runs used to get out of the shrine and come out straight up here and do a clip to get into the shrine. Just need to stop that. If we're quick enough entering, we can get a really good time to stop that. And then I need to wait for this rock to go past, using some whistle sprinting to make sure I keep my stamina up, because I need to run past this without using the stop. And here I need to grab the hammer. I don't particularly need it as a weapon, but I do need it for a glitch that's coming up called IST in about 20 minutes or so, 15-20 minutes. And it's probably one of the most broken glitches in this game, and it's one of the reasons why this run is A, very fun, but B, why we can get through it so quickly comparative to how it used to be before, because we can just use it to get infinite fairies basically and infinite weapons and then just breeze through the game.
No, a single plateau run has been as good as yesterday's run.
There's no good dupe glitches like Tears of the Kingdom, so that would have worked just as well, to be fair, if we didn't have to do IST.
I've messed something up.
In order to fix IST, they accidentally broke more of it with the dupe glitches in Tears of the Kingdom. So here, I'm going to use another BLSS to get over to the Cryonis Shrine. So first of all, I need to get this rock out of the way. And this little ledge by here is a good height again for my BLSSs. So putting away the shield is an important part of this, just because the glitch is weird. I don't know how it works correctly. Something to do with Link's state when you've put away a weapon you've had in your hand. So I need to do BLS. I actually need to curve around this wall to get to where the Cryonis Shrine is. If I'm quick enough there, I can skip the cold triggering originally, and it takes a little bit of time. So here I'm going to use the whistle sprint to climb up part of the cliff, just to save my stamina. It just allows me to climb the steeper, longer cliff quicker than trying to walk around.
No.
You see there, I nearly fell down. That's the problem with running out of stamina if you're not careful. You can slip down the strip, and that's why we need to use the whistle sprinting very carefully. So I do need to get full health here before I go into the shrine, because I'm going to use a BLSS to finish the shrine very quickly. So what I'm going to do here, if I do it this run, yeah, I will in a second probably. I think you need about a heart of health at least to do this trick. So if you get up to the Cryonis Shrine quick enough, you can get away with not consuming the meat in my backpack. So Cryonis Shrine, the monk is directly above me. It's also worth noting here that you do need to trigger the effects of the shrines, otherwise they won't give you the orb at the end. So part of the time lost, like, for example, we could probably finish the run without Cryonis, but we need to get Cryonis to get off the Great Plateau, unfortunately. It's just one of the quirks. The Great Plateau is definitely an area where every single run starts basically exactly the same. You need to get through the Great Plateau by doing these shrines in this specific order, but we do have so many tricks for getting through it that I would say, unlike something like Majora's Mask, where the first 20 minutes is quite mundane, this run has a lot of interesting things happening. So there, I'm going to use Bomb Impact Launch to get onto this back bit of wall, and then I can jump down and just trigger the shrine straight away. See, that's the quickest shrine in the run. There are ways of using BIL to get straight to the end of the other shrines, but they require really specific angles that can be quite risky to go for, unless you're going for like world record attempts.
1 minute 24 over gold. Which could still be, you know.
So now I need to get over to the Temple of Time, and you may be surprised to learn that we're going to use a BLSS to get over there again. But it is actually quite high up to where we are. So not only are we going to do a BLSS, we're going to do a BLS and then a full damage cancel, which is where we unequip an item in midair, and it resets Link's fallen state, which means that we don't take much damage or any damage at all. So first of all, the elderly gentleman is going to come and have a word with us about what we've done, which is very kind of him.
Ooh.
And then I need to step back slightly because the wind will actually take the bomb off the ledge. And then I need to use this little bit of ledge to get up, and then I'm going to turn around. And it's a lot easier to turn the camera around to get the BLSS because you actually have to hold the controller in a really specific way. So I hold the controller nearly upside down, and I use my entire right arm to shake the controller because you need to wiggle as fast and as hard as possible. It's a bit of a pro controller killer, to be fair, but you know, I like going fast. So I'm going to do a full damage cancel here. Blow up that bomb because I need another BLSS in a second, and it'll actually persist through the cutscene if I leave the bomb up.
Still a gold, but it'll be ahead of my last.
So we skip these cutscenes, and now we have the paraglider, and we're allowed to leave the Great Plateau, which means the run can officially start.
It'll be under 19 minutes.
So I believe that was 18 minutes something. A really good plateau time is about 17 minutes. But that run had a couple of major mistakes in it to trigger it up. Mainly getting off the tower, which is a bit of a problem for me.
Okay, let's go.
But the Great Plateau is so difficult execution-wise that you expect to lose probably about a minute on a fairly decent run. So here, I'm going to use BLSS to get up this wall. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually head over to the castle. For a really specific reason. I need to get... So the next thing I need to do is I need to do something called inventory slot transfer, or infinite stuff trick, called, or IST for short, which is essentially where I'm going to duplicate a bunch of materials into my inventory. And the two main things I want to duplicate are ancient arrows, because they're significantly more powerful, and fairies, because it means that I can survive everything in the game, so that I'm not at risk of dying at all, which we'll utilize later in the game. For example, in Goron City, we'll just stay on fire for the entire run because we only burn through about 100 fairies. So as you see, BLSS causes us to get here so quick that the area actually isn't loaded correctly. So what we do is we just flick the menu back and forth a bit, and that forces the game to load a bit quicker. Again, for reasons I'm not 100% sure of. So there's a bow here I want, because I specifically want 2 bows for this trick. And I can get these ancient arrows. And then I need to go over to Rito, nearly over to Rito Village. Unfortunately, we do need to watch this cutscene, but we need to watch this cutscene in the run anyway. So it's not really a particular time loss, because we just need to do it at the end of the run if we didn't do it now anyway. And we just, in the old run, we used to come to the castle anyway to get a really good bow. So now I'm going to do a bomb impact launch. You see, the other thing about bomb impact launches is that if the game is lagging too hard, you won't get the necessary speed. So there, I looked specifically down to try and reduce the amount of stuff that was on screen, and that would reduce the amount of lag, which means I get more speed and height, which allows me to get up to this point. I did clip a wall, unfortunately, which made me bounce off. But now I'm going to go up again. Do another BIL to get more height again. And this will put us up to on top of Zelda Study. And from here, we can do a BLSS over to the Fairy Fountain by the Tabintha Highlands, I want to say. Yep. Drop the first bomb. Yes, the square bomb, because the square bomb is much slower for the BLSS. We need to wait for the circle bomb there if it falls off the ledge. So there, I had like a weird bounce up. BLSS can be a little bit jittery. So from here, we can cross a great amount of distance with this glitch, but on the flip side, it can be quite physically taxing because you need to be wiggling, and we can't make a mistake. So if the controller stick goes neutral at any point, we instantly lose all our speed and drop. So we need to be holding B and wiggling the stick constantly. So it can take a bit of practice to get this glitch right, because we need to be very specific about our inputs, and we need to practice a lot with getting them as accurate as possible. So here, to get over to this area, I need to find and because if an area lags too much as well, which is what happened there, and if I have too much speed, it'll kill all my speed again. So I need to build it back up again. So I need to be really careful, because we reach something called a speed cap, where the game has like a cap on the amount of speed we're allowed to get with this glitch. And if we reach that cap and get across into a new area, it'll kill all the speed whilst it loads. So we need to go a specific area across the terrain to get to the fairy fountain next, where I'm going to get some more materials required for setting up the IST. So I need to grab mighty thistles, because we actually use them for creating attack up items. I had to grab at least one fairy, because the glitch I do, there's a couple of different versions of this glitch, but the version I do actually duplicates meals as well. So I need to grab 8 mighty thistles, and I'll grab another 2 apples here to make it up to 3. Then I'll destroy this tree, and then I'll use this tree to BLSS all the way over to Rito Village.
Stay there. Thank you.
Yes. Circle bombs can be quite tricksy. So I need to actually go around this bit of mountain very carefully. So I can use lower speed and like drag itself around. And if I hit a vertical surface like this, it'll kill some of my speed. But if I'm going quick enough, I'll actually get elevation. So I need to actually be even harder on it in order to get that speed that's required to climb up and get a little bit more height and get over to Rito Village. So again, we get to Rito Village at the 25-minute mark, which is already pretty quick, I think, for, Breath of the Wild. And it's already been non-stop with all these glitches. And now we're going to do the biggest glitch in the run. So the game actually freezes a bit here because it doesn't like you getting here too quickly. We need to skip the cutscene where... Where did these birds go in Tears of the Kingdom? Does anyone know? I don't know. I wonder if they're destroyed. Who knows? Yes, I need to set up now, ready for IST. So we get Zelda basically, if we don't go to see Impa first, the first time you see a Divine Beast, Zelda tells you about what the Divine Beasts are. Which is, not particularly handy to know, because, I think I might know at this point after 40-something runs of this game. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cook a attack up meal. So, lol, I only used 4 instead of 5, and therefore need to do it again. So I need it to be a 2 power up, and then I need 3 left over, which is why I have 5. So now I have 3 weapons, 2 bows, 2 arrow types, the main arrow and the ancient arrow. I need to drop one because I want 1 bow type. Then I need 1 shield specifically, 6 items in my hand, and then 1 meal. So first one I'm going to do something called a smuggle. And then I've got the weapon and the shield out, like that. It's really complex to hold. And then I'm going to hold some items. If I jump in the air and release the shield at the same time, the items get stuck in my hand. Now if I talk to this Rito woman, you can see the items in my inventory go into a really weird state, where it shows 0 on the menu. That's because I want to sell these 5. And then pick them up again. So what the game's done there is it gets really confused about what's in my inventory, and it thinks that I both have and don't have those items in my inventory, and it breaks the slots, actually breaks them. So I'm going to set up the glitch again. And do the same again where I'm smuggling the items in my hand. Talk to the Rito woman again. And it'll think again that I have these items in my hand when I don't. So it'll count them towards my inventory count, but they won't actually show up as a count, and that breaks the slots. So doing it twice this way, because I use 1 ruby, actually breaks 8 slots. So I need to specifically equip some items, save the game, then I drop some items so that my use up all the slots. Then when I reload the game, no wait, drop the items, then pick them up again, and that'll it'll roll over the inventory count. It's very complex sequence of events. But when I reload the game in now, it'll see that some of my items are duplicated over, so it'll show 2 sets. So it'll show 2 shields, and it'll show that I have 2 different sets of Hylian mushrooms, for example. And I know I've done it right because it'll throw the bow item up. Now I need to shoot 1 arrow there, and then I need to close and reopen the game. So close and reopen the game. Fixes the weird state the inventory's in, which is more important because it means the inventory actually shows up correctly, even though I've got complex items. But because the inventory's broken, some items don't work. More noticeably, the champion abilities don't work. And since I need them to work, what I actually have to do is actually close the game. So there are ways of doing the glitch, and then you just don't use the champion's ability, so you can fix it correctly. But for this little section by here, I actually want to close the game. So what will happen now is, I don't know if it shows up when I go back into the inventory again to double check. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sell. So you can see my inventory quickly. I have 999 fairies. So I'm going to sell a good chunk of them because I need about 200 rupees. And I don't need 999 fairies, frankly. So there are versions of the glitch where you can dupe just the rubies to have a bunch of them, and this glitch would be quite handy to do at the start of a new Breath of the Wild run because you just give yourself a stupid amount of money really quickly. But I sell 500 fairies to have 400 left because I need 1,000 rupees for this run because I need to buy the Gerudo armor set. I need to buy some other little bits as well through the course of the run. So it equates to about just over 1,000 rupees. And now I need to go up and actually start the Rito Village quest. So, about half hour in now. That entire section takes up about 5 minutes. But the time save from having all the fairies, from having all the ancient arrows, we don't need to get... We get the Rito bow from here, so we don't need to get another bow. We don't need to collect any arrows. We don't need to do anything else now. We can just power straight through the story, basically. So luckily enough, this Rito Village quest is very quick to set up. We actually enter the dungeon with about 4 minutes of doing the glitch or thing like that. It's very rapid. So first of all, we need to remember who Rivali is. And have a little crush, a woo. So here I'm going to do a BLSS because I need to go over to the flight range now. And I actually need to do it from this little ledge by here because the height is actually too high on the fences and it won't climb. But on the stairs is slightly lower, so we use that. So the thing to note is, because we have 400 fairies, we don't get any cold resistance. Because we just don't die quick enough, really. It's not instant death permanently, consistently. It's very slow. So here I can just go straight to the flight range. And again, because I have a good amount of ancient arrows, I don't think it's 999 quite. But it's a good couple of hundred that will more than serve us for the purposes of this run. So we need to do the arrow training bit, where basically we learn how to shoot in midair. Obviously, being a speedrun, I'm going to do this quite quickly. So I only have a handful of normal arrows, which is fine, because they're not really used. So entering, this guy gives us bomb arrows, but we don't need them. We don't use them. So for entering Vah Medoh, there's some really specific angles we can use to destroy the cannons, and the ancient arrows destroy the cannons in 1, whereas the bomb arrows are 2. And unlike other sections of the game, we're allowed to use ancient arrows. So for example, when we enter the second dungeon, we have to use bomb arrows, and we're not allowed to use ancient arrows for some reason. Same as we have to use shock arrows to enter the last dungeon, or the second last dungeon. I think we do it in this order, because we actually do we do part of a one quest, then we change it up a bit. So we've got 4 cannons to destroy here, and there's some really nice. If we use the swallow bow, which we are going to, there's some really nice setup shots we can use. So here, I'm going to use the setup bow, and I'm going to line up. Watch it go down, and make sure I get the first one. And then I'm going to do a fairly long BLSS to try and get a bunch of forward momentum to carry me over the top of Vah Medoh. That one wasn't quite as good as I would like. You need a very specific angle in the up arrows. It's very complex to get mid-air ones, especially around Vah Medoh. So here I'm going to line up. I think I missed that one. Yeah. Oh no, I did get it. So you need to line up Link's quiver with a really specific area of the Vah Medoh, and that'll show the cannons, and that'll guarantee a hit on the cannons nearly. I normally shoot 2 because I've got so many ancient arrows. Try and slightly angle it just to make sure I at least get a good shot at it. So the thing about Vah Medoh is that each of the divine beasts have their own control. If you're not familiar, you can use the controls to control a part of the divine beast. So this dungeon, you can use the tilt controls. So you open the map, you can tilt the divine beast, and then you're supposed to use that to solve some puzzles. Now you don't actually need to with Vah Medoh. It's the only one where we don't activate the panel. It's also the quickest divine beast by a good margin. So instead of going for the map controls, I'm literally going to head straight left, and we need to go to both wings to complete parts of it. So we're going to try and clear one wing, and then head across, do the other one, then head up to the top and fight the version of Ganon. A puppet Ganon, if you're into lore, I guess. So first of all, slight cheek, we've got this bit of malice by here. I'm actually just going to jump straight over it. And you need to get a really specific bit of height there, which I didn't get first time, in order to get onto this bit of ledge by here. And be careful not to use it with my stamina. And you can just jump through this gap. Yeah, I have 4,000 ancient arrows. And as you can see, the fairies are just saving me from dying from the cold. So again, I'm not going to particularly mind. I'm just going to walk across this bit of malice to get the first terminal, because I'm not scared of anything with this many fairies. And I need to go out and around to the next one. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to hit this little air duct, and then float down to the second area. Again, there's a couple of different ways. You need to get down under the divine beast for the next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump out this window. Nearly miss. You see, I've already had to use 2 fairies, but I have 493, so it's not as if I'm at particular risk of running out. And what I'm going to try and do here is set up a BLSS on this little pillar to head out. It's really complex BLSS, really difficult to angle. But if you get it and get out, you can head under the wing and head straight over to the other part. It can be very time consuming if you mess it up, is the only problem with that one. So there, I'm just going to jump off here. I need to angle really specifically to destroy that little bit of malice. You can BLSS all the way over and land on it, but again, for however much time it saves, like 15 seconds, it's normally not worth going for because you're going to mess it up 50% of the time, I found. So now we're on the other bit of the Divine Beast. And again, there's a puzzle here where you're supposed to basically tilt the wing and lift some gates to put a mallet into a switch. But what we can do is actually just use stasis and just launch it, and that'll work exactly the same way. So I'm going to use the hammer and just shoot it straight out, and that's already all the terminals done in 3 minutes 22 seconds. I don't know how long I spent on this dungeon the first time I did it, but I'm imagining it was quite a bit longer. I'm thinking. So I'm just going to head out the window and head up to the boss fight. Both things, I'm missing the 2-limb pump. This bit. So right now I'm going to eat one of my attack up meals. So although it doesn't look like it, the attack up meals are actually stacked. I have about 6 or 7. It doesn't look like it because it's a single slot because the game doesn't support having stacks of meals. But because I've done the inventory slot trick, it doesn't know how to deal with having more than one, so it just shows up. As you can see, with a good bow, I just 4-shot him with the ancient arrows and the 2 attack ups. You know, it's not. I'm not at any particular risk. So I'm aiming here is eye shots. So I 4-shotted it last time, but I could actually 3-shot it if I got eye shots in, which I didn't on the first section. Obviously, I don't really need to grab the heart container. It doesn't exactly lose a lot of time, but it's not as if I need to particularly worry about my health this run, because I have basically, what, 1,200 hearts, technically, with the fairies? Or more slightly, it's 493, it's more like 1,400 and something. I refuse to do maths, I'm a programmer. So we actually need to go. Now we've got Rivali's Gale. In all main quests, we do need to go talk to all these guys and finish them up, but we don't need to for all dungeons, because the old dungeon part is finished the moment I have the champion's ability. But for this guy, I do need to talk to him, because I want Rivali's bow, because it's one of the best bows in the game. And it's very quick to get, comparatively. Other than a Lionel bow, and that would take way too long. The other thing about Rivali's bow is it's actually got quite a straight shot on it. So here, I'm going to warp over to where the Cryonis Shrine is, because I need to go over to the desert now. You can BLSS all the way from here, and there are runs where you skip getting the tower and do that, but for my run, because I have the shrines that I could just warp when I like, I can warp closer, and A, it saves my hands because I don't have to BLSS all the way over there, and B, because I've got a higher angle, it's actually a bit easier to get over, because you don't have to curve all the way around the mountains. So much like 25 minutes ago, I'm going to BLSS from that tiny little ledge. Yeah, so we have several long BLSs across the map because it's such a big map. But I definitely need to watch my speed, which is why I face forward here for a bit, because that will shave some speed off. And it'll help me angle a bit better as well, because I need to curve around this little rock and head straight for Gerudo Town. Because you do need to trigger the start. You can't just head straight over and just attack the Divine Beast. You need to start the quest.
The speed cap is a scary, scary thing.
Thanks, pass me. You're not wrong. Speed cap is scary. So here you can see the game hasn't quite loaded in properly yet because I got over here so quickly. And I need to go into Gerudo Town, which means I need to get the outfit. But first of all, I need to wait for the guy to load in. There we go. I said it at the same time.
Normally the guy loads in and not the shrine. It's not very often it happens the other way around.
Yeah. So the game has some weird parts of loading. So here, I'm going to attempt to do a BLSS. Chase my bomb down. I'm going to attempt to do a BLSS off that little ledge off the back of the shrine. It's one of the hardest BLSS ledges to do it off because it's a really weird angle. And you could just really easily drop it. But the advantage is that it's the easiest spot to BLS from here. Otherwise, you have to do a bomb impact launch over to the left and then back across to get to Karakara Bazaar. So here I'm going to jump straight on the ladder. So here's where I spent 500 of my rupees. The other rupees are for shock arrows. So for the second half of the run, you're supposed to go collect shock arrows to face Varuta. If you just turn up with 20 shock arrows, they're like, let's just go deal with the Divine Beast then. So we buy 20 shock arrows to go do that. So quite expensive for new clothes. And the nice thing is we actually end up wearing these clothes for pretty much the rest of the run now, apart from the midriff because we have to change it for the Zora armor. But we just obviously you're not going to waste time on equipping in a speedrun, so we're just going to wear this for most of the rest of the run now. No character comments on it. They're clearly like, it's just Link. Link does Link things. So now we need to head back over to Gerudo Town. Luckily enough, I set up a wall point. You can BLSS over and it's slightly quicker, but the ledges for BLSSing are quite awkward, and you can just as easily just fall down and lose 20 seconds and end up warping anyway. So for this run, I just decided to just do the warp anyway because I was already ahead and I didn't want to lose time to any stupid shaving 10 seconds off tricks. So this, probably in vanilla, this is one of the quickest. This is one of the slowest dungeon entries because we have to go over and do the Yiga clan hideout. I think in this run it's actually the second slowest. I think one of the quickest because entering the other two dungeons you can't skip as much stuff. But this one we actually do like cut out a fair swath of it by using a glitch to get into the Yiga clan hideout. So first of all, I need to get the quest off Riju. Yes, unfortunately, unlike the Rito, the other two areas are just full of dialogue, which is unskippable. It'd be nice if you could skip it, if it was just a cutscene you could skip, and then just head straight over. It would save a good amount of time, but they didn't want to do that, and they made it even worse in Tears of the Kingdom, because there's unskippable cutscenes in that game. So here I'm going to walk back over to this area, because I need to get over to the Yiga clan hideout, but I'm actually going to go to the arena at the back of the Yiga clan hideout first. Because we definitely, there's a very interesting glitch we can do to get into the clan hideout without having to do all the stealthy bit.
Not tremendously far away my sub best under 150, which would be very embarrassing if I still can't get a sub 2 hour.
So here, unfortunately, we need to go like around and up because the Yiga clan arena is like in a dip in the mountain. Just one of those unfortunate quirks of the Breath of the Wild map. Unfortunately, if the ledge is too high, you can accidentally do that, and Blink will just drop the bomb. that's you know, coming off a tower or something is a lot easier because you're less at risk of that. But for here, and you could go from the tower over here, but it would just be just a little bit too short, and we can get a little bit more height here, because we need to climb up a mountain, and then basically use bomb impact launchers to head back down and over the other side of it. So here you'll see me do BLSS to get back on the back side of the Gerudo Highland, or the front side, I guess. The north side. The north side. It's probably safer to say. And I'm looking for this ledge area by here. You see there's some nice rocks here, and we're going to use some high launch BILs to try and get up as quick as possible, because we have to just climb it. So you can see there's the archway, so there's the first one, and then I'm going to run up to the second rock and do it again, just because we need to get as much height as possible, and we can't use BLSS to just ramp up. Unfortunately, without getting the upgrades, the bombs can be quite slow to recharge. So there's two. And then we've got the one over here. I think it takes a total of 5 to get over there. And before we had BLSS, this was the fastest way of traveling around the map. So we used to do BLSS everywhere. That's how we used to get into literally every single area of the map. Which is what I used to do when I first started running this game, so I used to do BLSS everywhere. And even worse in like all main quests, which is like, we used to be a 4-hour run. Yeah, that was way too much speed. So here I'm actually gonna head over to the enemy camp first to pick up some weapons, because they come in useful. As you see, the cold resistance just doesn't really matter to me here. Here I was like really far off angle. I'm missing the Tulin pump from Tears of the Kingdom quite badly, actually. I miss BLSS in Tears of the Kingdom, and I miss Tulin pump in Breath of the Wild. Let's just combo the two together. So here I'm just going to drop down, unbeknownst to these guys, I'm going to pick up the sword, the shield. The shield's the most important battle and I'm going to pick up the torch as well, because I need it for the Goron dungeon. So one last BLSS to head over to the Koga fight. And you can see I'm in the arena, so I'm entering from the wrong direction. Or so you'd think. But remember the glitch way back when called skew? So we can do that here to clip out of bounds. I actually need to save here and reload. I'm not really sure why. It's an issue only I've struggled with. But I tend to find, and apparently it can happen, that the collision doesn't load quite correctly if you get here too quick, which can make the skew not work. So I found it's safer to just save and reload. Then I need to skew on a very specific spot, then go in this corner, and then I just go straight through the wall. And then I can climb up this bit. You can still get copped by a guard by here, but I'm going to grab this bow.
Stop running into things.
Because the only trigger for the fight is actually just opening that wall up. So entering backwards, we could just clip straight through and go in here. Now, the Koga fight, you can actually do in one cycle per... You've got 3 separate cycles, and you're supposed to do 2 sections per cycle, so it's supposed to be a 6-cycle fight. You can skip some cycles by doing enough damage. I don't know if I do it in this run, because it can be very difficult to time. But I think this is the longest fight in the game, other than the boss for the next dungeon. Because unfortunately, that's a very slow fight. So I'm going to switch over to this bow, because I want to try and do as much damage as possible.
Nice.
So there's one cycle of that one, because I did enough damage, but it can be very tight to time, and if you fail that, he doesn't take any damage, he just instantly goes into the next cycle. It's very irritating, to say the least. So you see here, it looks like he's taking no damage, essentially. And then you need to recycle this bit again. And then the moment you do it, he'll go into the final section fight. You see, he just takes no damage. Because I messed with the cycle. And he also goes into a really weird position where he doesn't quite go over the pit properly. I'm not really sure why that happens. So that's Koga dealt with. I said that section is quite long just because the climbing the cliff and getting the clip and going through. And if I didn't shut down the game after the IST, when I reloaded the game, the champion's abilities would stop working. Just a bit aggressive pointing. Thank you, Koga. And unfortunately, again, there's no way to skip this cutscene. And we know now he goes to the depths after you do this to him. Which is why there's a chasm here. Which is a cool little tidbit they put into the next game. And one of the few references to Breath of the Wild they actually make in Tears of the Kingdom. It was very weird.
Like 30 seconds. Ouch.
So what used to happen here before is you used to go get the bananas in the hideout to cook a bunch of power-up meals here before you head into the next dungeon. Because of the way I routed it, I have those power-up meals already, and because I have the ancient arrows and the Rito bow, I don't really need to worry that much.
3 minutes of gold time.
So now we're going to go back and trigger the second dungeon.
That's still 155. See, I've still got 5 minutes worth of mistakes I'm allowed to make in an hour. And I only made 3 minutes worth of mistakes in the first hour.
So now we're going to head over. Again, we save a bunch of time compared to the old run. We watched the old runs I used to do, which is about 2:15 I used to have. So I managed to save about 17 minutes over my old run thanks to IST. Not purely IST, but IST does save about 5 minutes over the course of the run now. And being able to skip towers and stuff saves even more. I think they get down to like just around the 130 mark in the world record. At the very high end. So the other nice thing about having infinite fairies is that we don't need to worry too much about the lightning, because this was the #1 run killer section, for me certainly, previously, is doing this section and accidentally dying to the camel. I like to call him Gobi because I played too much Banjo-Kazooie. So we have to watch another cutscene, as always, as is common in this game.
Right.
So I think this is actually one of the coolest sections in the game. Very annoying to do in the speedrun. But from a thematic point of view, it's definitely one of the coolest. So you need to find a very specific ledge to get enough height to do this. To just BLSS out of the city. Head over to the Stompy lad. Oh, I missed the ladder. I was wondering, pro gamer move. I like to call it the pro gamer move. So there is ways of making this slightly quicker, but it's not the most efficient bit. So the reason I grabbed the duplex bow back in the Koga hideout is because two-shot bows, there's two different types in this game. There's two-shot bows where they fire two separate arrows in two separate directions. And there's the duplex bow that fires two arrows on the same trajectory. So for this specific area, because you have to use bomb arrows to take out the feet of the camel, and you want both arrows to hit in a row, you use the duplex bow, two shots, both will hit the foot at the same time, so you only have to do one. Ideally, what that means is when you head over, you can take both shots. You could try and do all four shots in like quick succession. All four should hit all 4 feet, because you do get a bit of time where the camel stopped, and then you can enter the dungeon that way. It doesn't always work out quite that way, but it's significantly quicker than trying to aim 2 separate shots. And because the duplex bow has such good range as well, you could do it from quite far away. So the other thing is that even though I have infinite fairy, so being hit by the lightning doesn't kill the run. Because what used to happen is you used to get hit by the lightning, insta-killed, and then it'd hit you all the way back, and you'd waste 2 minutes getting back over. So essentially it was, unless you were stupidly far ahead, it was the easiest reset point in the run. Although you won't die now, you waste so much time getting back up and getting back on the seal that we still have to be cautious about getting hit, which is why we still want to pull back and save ourselves from getting hit so that we can just shoot the arrow straight away. So you know, I'll pull back, set myself up ready, get into the lightning bubble, and then I'll head back out again. And then take 2 shots straight out. That's good. And then this is probably where this video is going to end now. And then for my next video, we'll go through the second half of the run, which is doing all the other dungeons and defeating Ganon, which takes like 2 minutes. He's not a particularly hefty lad in this game, and with ancient arrows, turns out.
Just because I didn't fall on the stairs, which is, you know, an annoying thing to lose time on.
So stop there. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed so far, and I will be back with part 2.